All right, so previously I set up my little OpenAI helper that basically asks ChatGPT how to do something, gets a response back. I've set this up inside of a web browser in the dev tools, got it at the command line, got it in Excel, got it in Vim. And of course, it would be easy to set this up in just about any tool. And recently, I didn't think I'd really like this that much, but recently I added it to Script Debugger, which is an AppleScript editor. And I also added it to Script Editor because they're both basically the same program as far as how my tool works. And I was surprised at how well it does when I ask it to write some AppleScript code for me. And the reason I'm surprised is because back when I was working with GPT-4 and especially 3.5, both of those were just terrible at writing AppleScript. I didn't have a lot of luck using them. And now that I'm using, I believe, 4.0, it turns out to be surprisingly good at writing some basic AppleScript code. So I want to show you what this looks like, and then just encourage you to maybe set something like this up if you want to write some AppleScript code, but you would otherwise avoid that because it's such a pain in the ass. Maybe set something like this up and see if it actually doesn't work to take care of some basic automations. And so right here, I've got Script Debugger opened up. You could do this with Script Editor, basically a surface to write AppleScript. And in the case of Script Debugger, I've got some debug tools built in, which is why I like it. And so let's just say that I want to do something here. I've got this directory here, my downloads directory in the test subfolder. Let's just say I want to list the files for whatever reason. Maybe I want to convert a file from an image to a PDF or something. Well, the first thing I need to do is just get a list of the files. So how about I ask it to list out the files in the download directory inside of the test subdirectory. I can now just select all of this, the stuff that I typed in, hit my keyboard shortcut, which is Control-Shift-Command and B, invoke that, give that a second, and there you go. It spit back some code. I don't know if that's going to work or not, so the first thing is Command-K, just to go ahead and try and validate that and format that and see if it works. I can then go ahead and run this with Command-R. And then over in the debug panel here, I can see I've got the file list variable that was set right here on this line. And if I look at this, you can see it lists out two separate files. One is the Alfred Matroska video file, and the other one is a slash.pdf, and those are right here. So it turns out this actually works. Now, in this case, it's got an extraneous line here that basically just prints out the file list. If I were to look at the log here, should print out the file list here at the end, which is fine. It's not necessary, but in this case, I could get rid of that if I knew to get rid of that. And then I can just settle on this code right here. And now if I wanted to evolve this and turn this into something more generally applicable, maybe I could ask it to take it and turn it into a function. Let's just see if we can get that to work. So turn this into a function that can be reused. We'll see if it can do that. So again, hit my shortcut key here. Now, I've had some challenges getting it to take chunks of code and rewrite them, but in this case, it actually looks like it might have worked. It did change the path to the directory here. So I will fix that by putting in the path I know where the files are at. So it's downloads. Actually, it's also downloads. I don't know why it changed the directory that it's passing there, but that should fix the path to be correct. Let's just see when I Command-K. All right, that validates. Now let's see if I can run this. There you go. It runs it. And in this case, it doesn't set any variables, though, so I can't validate anything over on the right-hand side here. And oops, actually, I should have actually read the code before I ran it. In this case, it's making a new folder. So here's a good example of how it didn't really listen to anything of what I said. Instead, it actually created a new directory at the path that I passed. So that's not what I asked for. So I'm going to scrap that for right now. That is a good lesson in maybe you review the code that it generates before you actually run it. I mean, if it had said something like remove a directory, I hopefully would have looked at that. But sometimes when I'm just querying information, I don't take the time to actually look at what it's doing. I should definitely do that. All right, so let's get rid of this. Another task that I perform often is to work with whatever I have opened up in my browser. So I like to be able to save my environment to open it up again. And so one thing I was working on recently is get me a list of the URLs that I have opened up in the browser. So get me a list of the URLs that I have opened up right now. Let's select that, see if that works. All right, so let's just see, well, that's Safari. Let's undo that. Let's say in my current browser, let's do Brave Beta. Okay, spits back something. Command-K. I will take a moment to look at this here. All right, so we've got a list of URLs here. We're going to go with every window, and for each window, we're going to get a list of tabs. And then for each tab, we're going to add to the end of the list the URL. This looks rather benign here, so if I go ahead and run this here, over on the right, you can see here's my list of windows. There's only one right now. That's great. And then it went through each of the tabs. Here's the tab list, or here's the last tab list actually. And then here is the list of URLs. So we have items 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm wondering if I open up a new tab here with dig, now when I run this, I should get back 4 URLs this time. All right, I get back 4 in that case. And of course I have 2 windows now. And then this is just the last tab list that it went through. So yeah, this is actually working to get me a list of URLs now. I could go through this then and maybe save these into some sort of file that I could then use to restore them. And speaking of restoring them, maybe I want to open up a new script here, a new blank script, and we'll just go ahead and choose that here. Maybe I want to have it open up a new tab. Can it make a new tab for me? So if I want to restore things, can I get it to open up the tab? So let's see, open a new tab in the Brave browser and navigate to, we'll just do google.com. See if it can do this one here. So I'll select it and invoke my shortcut. All right, get something back here. I don't know if this works or not, but if I hit Command K, that will validate it. And when I do that, watch where it says tell application here. The neat thing about AppleScript is you don't always have to be specific. That's not the right name for the browser. But if I hit Command K here, you can see it inserts beta on the end, which is the actual version I'm using, which if I were to Command Tab to it, you can see it says Brave Browser Beta. So one nice thing about AppleScript is even if you have the wrong name for the program, you don't have the beta version, for example, usually when you hit Command K, it will go ahead and validate and fill that in then. All right, so next up is to activate. So yeah, bring it to the front and then tell the first window to set a new tab, to make new tab with properties. Hey, this looks actually pretty good here. If I look on the end of the line, it's not deleting any files. So let's go ahead and just Command R. And there you go, it opens up a new website. And of course I could run that again and open up yet another website. So now I have the foundation of being able to save a list of tabs and open them back up. So now maybe I could write some sort of a script to be able to save my environment and then restore it, and then plug that into whatever tool I want to run that when I'm done working on subject A and want to switch to subject B, etc. And so really all I wanted to show in this video is that this is something that is pretty easy to use. And for some basic scenarios, it seems to be working really well to give me basically sample code. I can test it inside a script debugger here, figure out if it does what I want or not. And I've had some pretty good luck with this thus far. Now, the one caveat is, like I said, when I ask it to modify some code that I already have, that's been a bit tricky. It has worked at times, but as you saw earlier, it didn't even do what I asked for. So I'll have to work on the prompt as far as that's concerned. But for now, this looks pretty good. So the next thing I wanted to say is if you're curious about the implementation here, again, I'm just using Keyboard Maestro and inside of Script Debugger and Script Editor. So both of these programs, I have the same macro setup here. Does exactly what I've done before, except I don't have it select all because when I'm working inside of Script Debugger, I might have other code that I don't want to modify. So I might come down here and do food the bar. I might want it to do something down here. And so I don't select everything. I pre-select what I want passed to it. So that's a bit different. All right, so that is it as far as Keyboard Maestro is concerned. Of course, then I have the prompt inside of this Python file, just like all of my other scenarios inside of my dot files. And then maybe the last thing I'll say here, if you don't have Script Debugger because it's a paid product, of course you can get this to work with Script Editor. Make a new file here. Select it, hit my shortcut, list out directories in my downloads. We'll see if it can get it here. Good deal. So let's see if we can run this. And it looks like I got some sort of an error here, but it does look like it got some of this to work because I've got the downloads directory of the West user. There's a test directory. There's also this downloads rug directory. I wonder if there's some problem with the hyphen in the name. Don't know. Just wanted to show you, you can actually generate this code right here inside of Script Editor if you don't have Script Debugger, though definitely recommend Script Debugger because you get this nice little inspector that allows you to look at the state of the variables that you set, which can be incredibly helpful when it comes to trying to figure out what the hell to do to get AppleScript to do what you want. Now, one alternative I might recommend, besides using my tool over in Script Debugger or Editor, if you have Visual Studio Code, that can actually be a good way to be able to get some help writing some AppleScript as well. I just don't like it because it doesn't have the debug tools that Script Debugger has, but this is a perfectly viable approach, is to try and write out some sort of a comment in here, just like with anything else in VS Code, and then get Copilot to kick in and start suggesting code to you. So this is another approach to take. And of course, then if you want to run this code, if you have a plugin to do that, like I think the run code plugin will do, you can invoke this. Now in this case, it doesn't print anything out and I don't see any debugging here. I know then if I use something like a log, I can add a log to this. Maybe I could even ask it to add logging and see what it says here. Well, that's not what I want. Log variables. Okay, so yeah, I could get it to do that. Save that there. Let's see if it suggests the tester. All right, let's do that. Run this now. And there you go. I get some output down below. So this is perfectly viable if you have access to Copilot or another tool that can generate completions inside of VS Code. That's great. The only reason I really don't like this is my preferred approach is to have this nice inspector or debugger here inside of Script Editor. So that's why I love that. That said, I don't know if there's any ability to set breakpoints here and debug AppleScript code. Not certain if you can do that, but this would definitely be a viable alternative in terms of generating some AppleScript code.